What's up, guys? And today, I'm filling in for Brad. So normally Brad does our Market Watch Wednesdays, and I know it's Thursday. Well, Brad's laptop died on him over the weekend, and I was over at Disney yesterday. So because of that, we're recording this morning, and we're going to be going through a couple different areas when it comes to the Market Watch. First area we're going to be looking at is the daily movers. What's moving up and down for the day? The second one's going to be the best sellers, and the third one's going to be the best bargains. Now, these are coming from a couple different websites, just like you've been seeing before. Lorcana.gg is going to show us our movers, and we're going to be opening up another website, which is Card Market. Card Market, yes, it is going to be in Europe with the euro and everything, but they've got a really cool breakdown of the best sellers and the best bargains. So we're going to be looking at those as well on this video. So if you like this content and everything, make sure leave a comment down below, hit the like, hit the subscribe. And if you want to pick up any of the cards we talk about today, make sure to use the link below because, well, it helps out the channel. And maybe if we get enough sales, we can help Brad get a new laptop, but hopefully he'll be back in a week or so and we can get him set up on, I don't know, another computer or something like that. But appreciate you guys, and let's jump into it. All right, so we're going to be looking at the movers today, and yeah, there's a lot of cards that are just showing up week after week after week. And of course, we've got Diablo. Diablo is a $50 card. It's going to be a $50 card. Just kind of come to terms with that. He may go down to 40 at some point, but honestly, this card is an amazing card for what it does. It's a staple in all the green decks, so it's going to be a little while before he actually gets out of that big range because he's a 4 of. Now, when you have cards that are 2 ofs and things like that, they can fluctuate, especially when people start to play less and less of them. But with a card like this being a 4 of in a deck and being legendary, which means the pull rate is going to be a lot lower, he's not going to come down. He's just like Sad Beast. And yeah, speaking of Sad Beast, he's still here. He keeps creeping up. We saw a little bit of a dip here, but he's just going back up and staying in that range. So this card as well is just going to stay here. He's a $50 card. He's such a good card. Even with Medusa being able to take him down, if they don't have it, he sticks around, you draw a card, and drawing cards in Lorcana is very good. It's the reason why Diablo is good. It's the reason why Sad Beast is good. Next up is Maleficent Dragon. Now, again, this card is moving a little bit, but realistically, it's because it's chapter 1. This card is not a 4 of in a lot of decks. It's a 1 or 2. Sure, you're seeing it more in the red and blue decks because they can ramp up to this card. It's pretty good. It kills another card when it comes down. It taps for 2 lore. It's a great card. But the problem that you're going to have with it is it's going to become more scarce over time. Unless they reprint this card in another set, it's just going to be harder to find over time. And this is the reason why it's just kind of continuing to go up. And when I say go up, it's not going up much, but you know, $1 here and there is going to make a difference when you're trying to get 4 of for your playset or being able to have them in the future. Next, we have Robin Hood. Again, just staple after staple after staple, and that is what this card is. This card probably isn't coming down either. It's legendary. It's really good. It gets shifted for like an insane rate. So coming down on turn 3, a 3/6, most cards can't deal with it, and you're gaining lore by taking out their characters. So this card is also one of those 4 ofs, and it's the reason why it's always going to be $40 to $50 unless literally they print something crazy on set 5 or set 6 that just takes its place. I don't really see that happening, or at least anytime soon. So this card is going to continue to go up. It's a great investment if you're looking into it. And honestly, even after set 4 or 5, I can still see this card being around and being, you know, over $30 or $40. So it's a good card, just keeps going up. You can catch it on a dip here and there. And if it does dip and you're looking to play any kind of steal, this is a great card to pick up. But until then, probably on its way up at the moment. All right, so let's get into a card we haven't really seen on the list, and that is Kida. So Kida is making her kind of come back a little bit. You can see in the graph, she was really highly, anticipated when she was spoiled, when she was released. A couple people were trying her out, and then she fell off the board. You can see that the dip happened. She started to come back up in some of the decks where, we were trying to do maybe the more aggro stuff with Pride Lands and things like that. And she dipped again. More people weren't playing her. But with some of the new cards and things like that that are happening, a lot of people are trying to figure out how do you get around Bucky or some of these other decks. And so Kida is seeing a little bit more play. She's a great card just like Robin Hood, she has a crazy shift where she's coming down potentially on turn 3. She can take away all the attack on the board. So if you're from Magic, we're talking about fogging a board essentially. And she taps for 2. So she's a great card in here. Right now, I would say she's probably around where I would expect her to be. She may go up to about $10, but yeah, right now, I think she's about $8 card until we can see more decks running her and proving why she should be this high. Next up, we have Mufasa. Now, Mufasa has definitely come and gone in this format, and we saw, DLC Atlanta, Mufasa showed off. The deck was great. It took a lot of people by surprise, and this card is really, really good. It had a run where it was going up. As you can see now, the uptick is kind of slowed down. It's going down right now. So this may be one of the dips you want to watch if you're looking to pick him up still, because Mufasa's good. He taps for 2. He's a threat. You have to deal with him. And when you deal with him, you may be getting something worse on the board. And I'm talking from the opponent's perspective. Whereas if you're playing it, your deck really is probably built around creatures. It's always going to hit something. And most likely, if you're using kind of the red Fasa decks and things like that, whatever comes down is also going to have 2 lures. So I really like this card. Like I said, it's on the downtick at the moment. So I would just kind of watch it. And if you're looking to pick them up, maybe pretty soon, maybe when you want to pull the trigger on this card, because there's always cards that get printed and then this card jumps back up. All right, so speaking of staples, again, just like the first set of the list, Maui's a staple. Now, this card was always underrated when he was released. I can even say I didn't think he was great based on spoilers, but after playing with Maui, we've all learned Maui is the truth. He is the card that you want for removal. He comes down, he can take out most everything on the board, especially with locations. So one of the big things that we saw at DLC Chicago was locations were kind of sticking around. Castles were coming down. People didn't have removal for it. And Maui really is that removal when you're playing Ruby on either side of your colors. So Maui is going to continue to stick around as one of those big cards. He's going back up right now, and I don't foresee him really coming down. He's a $10 card all day long. And right now he's trending back towards that $15 like he was before. So yeah, he's a great card. If you don't have your playset and you ever plan on playing Ruby, he's a card that you need in your collection. All right, so Yensid is on this list as well, and it's a little bit of an uptick. Now, Yensid's one of those cards because there's a lot of people experimenting with brooms, and brooms are a lot better than people are giving them credit for. Now, I'm not saying that brooms are going to be the next tier 1 deck, but there has to be just something there with people playing the brooms, playing the location where they get to tap for more lore. They're really good. And honestly, with set 5 or set 6, if they print 1 or 2 good brooms, it becomes a really good deck. So Yensid's one of those cards where I don't know if he's really an $11 card right now until we see the broom deck. Personally, I'm going to wait a little bit longer. I'm hoping he drops to like $7. He is legendary, which makes him a little harder to, price and look to see if he's going to come down. But I think right now everybody's just focused on brooms. There's a potential in the next month or so he may drop a little bit more into maybe the $8 range. So, it is what it is. If you like Yensid, if you like the brooms deck, he's a must-have for the deck. But the fact that you also have a copy inside of the Ursula's Illuminary's Quest makes it to me to where I think this card will come down a little bit more over time. But as of right now, he is trending up just slightly. And lastly, I believe we talked about this last week, Fishbone Quill. It is making a run and it is going up, up, and up. Now, this card is a $10 card. We talked about before, Maui was one of the only $10 plus legendaries, but now Fishbone Quill is also that. I don't know if this card will get reprinted anytime soon, and that's the reason why this card is going to continue to go up. If you don't have your playset or you don't have your cards and you ever plan on doing any of the ramp and sapphire decks, you need to have Fishbone Quill. It's such a great card. It ramps you, and because the ink that you're putting in play is not coming in exerted, yeah, it's busted. It's crazy. And if you don't have them, I definitely pick them up because this is a card that will be $15 over the next couple weeks, especially with any of the Sapphire decks, whether it's Sapphire Steel or Sapphire Ruby, will run these because it's really great with that Hiram type synergy, where if you have multiples and things like that, you can either, ink them or use them to draw cards. All right, so now we're going to be talking about the best sellers. So yeah, it's great to look at those movers, the things that are going up and down, but the curiosity and the question is, what's actually selling a lot right now? Being sold doesn't necessarily mean that your price is going to go up, but you can kind of pick up on cues of what decks are becoming really popular, especially in paper with the DLCs coming up and things like that. So we're just going to look at some of the top sellers. You can see them here on screen. After that, we'll be looking at bargains as well. I'll kind of break down some of the cards and kind of throw out why I think they're making the list. But when it comes to best sellers, we have a package here, and you can see that they're all ruby. Ruby is one of the best colors right now. Again, in the previous couple formats, amethyst was just insane with the bounce package, but now we're getting some really good cards in ruby, and it's kind of like a Flynn Rider package. So Flynn Rider Frenemy is such a great card. When he comes down, he's a 2/2, but whenever it gets your turn, if you have the biggest character on the board, you gain 3 lore, which is pretty crazy considering he also taps for lore, which you're never going to tap him. You don't want to lose him, but Flynn is being paired with that Sisu. Sisu comes down. She is a 1/4. 4 is really good. It's a great number because a lot of stuff can't kill for defense, and she's going to get +1 power for every card in your opponent's hand. If you're playing Ruby, you're probably not discarding their hand, so they're going to have a decent amount of cards. And Sisu is going to be the biggest character on the board at all times. He also taps for 2, which is great already for a 3-drop. So really, really great card here. This is going to gain that 3 lore with Flynn. And realistically, you don't have to do nothing. You put these 2 cards down, and you're probably gaining lore every single turn without ever even having to quest. But of course, you may quest just to get that extra little bit over time as well. Lastly on this list is King Undisputed. And this is there because of the menace that is Bucky. So because of the Bucky deck, a lot of your stuff has ward like Prince John and Bucky, and you can't really get to them. But this is the card that Ruby has started to side into the deck or tech into the deck in order to get rid of those ward characters. So that's the reason why we're seeing this being bestsellers. Everybody's shifting to some type of Ruby deck, whether it's, Ruby Sapphire like we've been seeing, or we're starting to see some different variations like Ruby Steel and some other ones like that, utilizing these cards. And I'm liking it. I'm liking these cards getting teched in because we're starting to see some of the other ones that we didn't necessarily like before start to fall away a little bit. I'm seeing less Be Prepared. Not to say it's not a card. It's everywhere. A lot of people are running it. But I have been seeing slight few less of those because of Sisu and some of these cards. So if you've teched your deck the right way, Sisu isn't as scary as possible compared to those Be Prepareds where you run out your board and then you lose the whole thing. A couple other cards just to mention real quick before we go to bargains. You got things like, we don't talk about Bruno, Aerial Treasure Collector. Again, people like those item decks. She's kind of floating around in there as well with the sellers. Queen's Castle, always a great card. You've got Bruno, Aerial Sonic Warrior, some other cards that are kind of on the fringe of playability, at least in my opinion. But all it takes is one deck. All it does is it takes one tournament where somebody shows off one of these cards, and all of a sudden they're huge and everybody's buying them and we're seeing them. So it's good to see the cards there and to know what people are buying, maybe to help you in your locals or one of the DLCs that are coming. All right, so the last segment I'm gonna look at is just best bargains. So what this is cards that were, pricey at one time and now they're super cheap. These cards are the ones that you may want to keep an eye on because right now they're really low, and all it takes is a card here or there to get printed, and all of a sudden they're back in the format. I love the picks that I'm seeing here, and I think they have legs. You look at Aladdin here. Aladdin was a beast when it came to set 1. Being able to bring in Aladdin and then shift this Aladdin onto the smaller Aladdin, being able to sing big songs with the 7-drop, I think he's still one of those sleepers. We just got a great Aladdin over in Steel that allows you to remove items and things like that. So maybe, we've got some kind of Ruby Steel floating around with Aladdin. He removes lore on their side while you're taking down characters. So he's, in my opinion, a little bit better than Robin Hood, but he works a little bit differently just because he costs a little bit more. He's going to shift out for 5 instead of that 3. If he shifted out for 4, this card would be busted and need to be legendary. And honestly, I wish that's kind of what it was, but who knows? I think this card's really great. and he still has some playability, especially if we start to get multiplayer formats, which we're starting to see kind of pop up a little bit more and more at this DLCs. So if that becomes a thing, I'm not saying Commander and Lorcana, even though I'd probably play it, but if we do start to see more multiple formats and things like that, this Aladdin's really good because it hits all your opponents when you're removing that lore. Next up is Kuzco. Kuzco was amazing in set 1. The Emerald deck looked much different when you got to set 1. It was all about just running stuff out that all tapped for multiple lore, and Kuzco was amazing there. The fact that he has Ward and other characteristics here where it makes it hard to remove, his only downfall is he's not inkable. But Kuzco is one of those cards where we may start to see some kind of Ward, whatever deck start to come back and value, you know, lore tapping, and he becomes a card that's easy to put in those Emerald decks. Lastly on this list is Taka. Now, I was never a huge fan of Taka, but Taka does have some upside with the card. I would probably wait right now. I still think it's probably going to drop over time because I really haven't seen anybody play Taka at all. And right now, the only reason why she's keeping her value is the fact she is in the older set, which means it's being open less. You're seeing less of them out there, and her rarity is pretty good. So I don't know. Taka is one of those cards where maybe in the future we'll see something that kind of boosts it up, you know, within the shift levels or things like that. But, you know, you never know. So look into that list right below there. You still got a couple big cards floating around. You got things like Stitch Rockstar. Stitch Rockstar is still an amazing card. Being able to draw more cards and things like that, it has a really good shift. So it's always a card to look for when it comes to best bargains and things like that. If you don't have Stitch Rockstars, I definitely would recommend at some point picking him up because he's only going to get better with more cards printed, especially more good one drops printed in the future as well. All right, and that is it for the Market Watch Wednesday. I know it's technically Thursday, but this will return next Wednesday. You're stuck with me for a little bit until Brad is back up and running with a new laptop and a new setup. But let me know in the comments, what did you think? What did you like? What do you want to know? Like, what are we still missing when it comes to the Market Watch? We love to create content for you guys. So we appreciate everything you're doing for the channel. We're getting close. We're getting close to being able to get monetized. All we need is more watch hours and a handful more subscribed. So appreciate you guys so much. Until next time, I'll take it easy.